Today is 980th day to come here, since I learning how to support your dreams, your goals, allow you to become the person that you want to become. Today, I speak about courage. Courage. How important the topic courage is. I think that this is one of the top 5 most important topics of all in life in general, because courage will allow you to do so many different things. Even like think about relationships. We need to have a lot of courage sometimes really to build a relationship and say that would you be interested in being with me, and having that love relationships, a friendship. Of course, a business is courage, taking action, and not being afraid to fail. At the same time, everything, build a new skill set is a massive courage, because you have no idea how everything look like. So everything what we do is based on courage. Now, if you don't have a courage, what to do? Be happy because you're able to develop courage. So when I think about there's so many different things to develop. I think that sometimes we're supposed to start from developing the courage, because when we develop courage, all other things become so much more easy to develop. When we develop courage, it's so much easier to develop all other things. But if we're focusing on building other things and we don't have the courage, we're afraid to ask for feedback, we're afraid to ask for advice, there's so much things that doesn't slows you down. So today we'll share 10 things that courageous people do and what people who do not have courage do as well. So number 1 is face fears heads on. So people who have a lot of courage, they face fears right away. Now, what was the most important part is all those people think that people do not have fears, but that's not right. Every single person have fears, and massive fears. Every single person have massive fears. But what is different is that courage is a separator. That means every single person have fears, but not every single person have courage. And that is a massive gap. So two people who has exactly the same fears, one person will take action, other person not. And the only separator who will take action is who has the courage. So that means people who has the courage, they face fears heads on. And every single time then when you face fear heads on, what happens? You improve your courage. So I love the saying that when you want to have courage, you need to take action without courage. First time, you need to do something without courage. You will never get courage by waiting to get courage. So if you never had courage, you will need to do something without courage. That's one of the most powerful lessons I learned in my life. If you want to have courage, you need to take some actions without courage. And of course, when you do first time, now second time you have a little bit of courage. So you'll be able to do and stretch your courage. But the most important part, the first time, when you never did anything courageous, that means first time you will need to do something without courage. Because we will not need to wait for it. You just do the thing necessary. Because people who do not have courage, they avoid situations that requires courage or some kind of discomfort. So they avoid it. Number 2 is take risks. People who are courageous, they calculate risks and take those risks. And it could be in everything. That means that they will not take calculate risks regarding the relationships, regarding goals, regarding business, regarding everything. Career change. Everything requires some kind of sort of risk. Because everything is a risk. What is more risky? That's the question that they ask. What is more risky, stay where I am, or taking a risk and really trying to change my life? And they say, okay, it's more risky to stay where you are rather than taking action. While people who lack in courage, they play it safe. They stay in a comfort zone, and of course, at the same time, they remove all the opportunities for growth. Number 3 is stand up for their beliefs. So people who are courageous, they stand firm with what they believe in. And they take actions based on their values and beliefs because they are very strong. And they're not afraid. Because a lot of times we could potentially be afraid of judgment, because there's a lot of people who say one thing, but you say, no, I'm stay firm in my beliefs. I stay firm in my values. And I will do actions based on my own beliefs. I appreciate your input, but I will do my action based on my beliefs, on my values. And that, again, shows massive courage, because not everyone is willing to stand for what they believe in. And of course, people who are weak in courage, they will compromise their beliefs, they will compromise their actions, they will compromise their values just to really fit in and gain approval of others. Number 4 is embrace change. Again, a lot of times people are afraid of change. It shows that you are lacking courage. That means that we have everything what we need to change. The only thing that is missing a lot of times is that courage. So people who are strong in courage, they see an opportunity to change and they seek it. They want to grow, they want to experience, and at the same time they are not afraid to really change it, embrace it, accept it, and move forward and move through it if necessary. While weak in courage resist change. And they want to keep where they are and they stick with routines, familiar routines, even though those routines doesn't necessarily are beneficial, but they want to stick to routines because that is comfortable, that is known, that is familiar, and they don't want to change. Number 5 is speak up. Speak up. That means raising your hand as well and ask a question is part of the speak up as well, because how many of us sometimes forget to ask a question because we didn't have the courage at that moment. I think that all of us have experienced that at least once in a lifetime, where we forget, or not forget, we're afraid to really ask a question. And sometimes we are afraid to speak up for our own self or for other people. If you see something that is not right, do you say something or do you keep quiet? Sometimes I understand is keep quiet is even better than speak up. It depends on the situation. Because at the end of the day, we need to make sure that the other person is willing to listen sometimes. Because our energy is the most important thing. And wasting energy, it doesn't make sense either. But we need to learn to speak up when it's needed. And do you have the courage to do that? Because people who are weak in courage, of course, they always remain silent. No matter what. Even though that it hurts them, they will remain silent. And because they just want to avoid negative reactions, and sometimes potentially in conflict, because the best truth is coming from conflict. But if you're not willing to really speak up and it will create a conflict, that means that the truth will never be found. So courage is very, very important. Number 6 is pursue goals persistently. There's a lot of setbacks, obstacles, disappointments will be achieving goals. So that means you constantly will need to pursue courage, because you'll need to use courage to really personally go after your goals, because there will be more challenges, more obstacles, more problems, more solutions to create, and every single problem will require you to really use your courage. And that's why people who have a lot of courage, they're able to persistently pursue their goals because they persistently able to overcome those problems or overcome those obstacles. While people who really don't have courage, they give up very early. No, this is too big for me now. And they start to bargain how big the challenge needs to be for until they say, I will quit. And often doubting their abilities and their potential. People with courage don't bargain the price. Don't bargain on the price. They just take action because they know that it's necessary to achieve the goals. Number 7 is accept responsibility and ownership. This is very powerful. So it means every single time when you go after, you take ownership. You fail, you take ownership. You succeed, you take ownership. You take responsibility. Because I think one of the worst things that people are able to do is that when they fail, blame something. Because when you blame, you remove ownership. And if you remove ownership, you remove lesson as well. If you remove ownership, you remove lesson. So you didn't learn from that failure. That means you will not learn from that mistake. You will not learn from that failure. That means next time you will do exactly the same mistake. Because you didn't learn from it. You didn't learn from it. So when you take ownership, when you take responsibility, is the best way to learn, improve, and get better and move forward. So people who have courage, not afraid to take ownership, not afraid to take responsibility, because they're not afraid of judgment. They're not afraid to look weak. And I think that that's the strength to really say that this is my fault. When I understand that is courage, I see that person is strong, a strong person. But people who are blame others for external circumstances, of course, show that massive weakness, and at the same time they're afraid. It's not their fault but at the same time it's their fault that they didn't develop their skills, didn't develop the courage to be able to accept responsibility. Number 8 is seek help when needed. This is very powerful. This is probably one of the most powerful as well. Seek help when needed. It's a massive courage. I think that the most important part is being able to say, I need some help. Could you help me? It requires a massive, massive courage a lot of times. And I admire people who really ask for help and ask for help often, because asking for help is one of the fastest shortcuts. People who do by themselves, they are avoiding seeking help because they don't want to appear weak. So that means that if you don't ask for help, you don't appear weak. But if people who ask for help, they appear strong. At least in my eyes, they appear strong. People who ask for otherwise, people who ask for help, it appears strong in my eyes. So I think that we need to understand that is asking for help is sign of strength. If you don't ask for help, is sign of weakness. Even though that we avoid, even though that often we struggle in silence, and that is the worst thing that we could do for ourselves. Number 9 is stay true to themselves. So people with courage stay true to themselves. So they really are authentic. So they are not afraid to show themselves the way how they are, and really that they don't look into external pressures on or expectations. It's like how I want to portray myself, how I want to act, how I want to really show up in my life. And if someone doesn't like it, let be it. The most important part is inner peace. I better have an inner peace than really look good in other people's eyes. And that's the most important part. People who have courage, they are willing to sacrifice friends, people, the way how they look, the way how they speak, just for inner peace, because inner peace is much more important. Because a lot of them says that if you're friend to every single person, that means you're enemy to yourself. I learned from this Mike Tyson. I heard that he said it. And it was a beautiful saying. If you are a friend to everybody, that means you are enemy to yourself. Because you're not able to be a friend to everybody. But you need to choose who you are, and to have that peace of mind, really show yourself true to, be true to yourself. Because people who have weak courage, they conform to others. They try to be liked by others. And they're compromising their own identity just to be fit in, and to be validated by others. And number 10, last one, number 10 is learn from failures. People who are courageous and have a lot of courage, they are moving towards failure much, much faster than to success, because they learn so much more from failure. So they're not afraid to fail, and they are able to learn because they accept failure, they own the failure, they reflect on that failure, and they take responsibility of the failure, and they learn from it. And every single time when they learn of it, that means that they become even more courageous. Because when you learn from failure, what happens? What happens when you learn from failure or from success? You developed, you became better. Because you became better, you become more confident. Because you become more confident, it's easier to build more courage. So every single time when you fail and you learn, become better, now next time you will do exactly the same thing, you will have more courage because you know what you did, what didn't work. So failure is a beautiful thing for courageous people. And of course, that allows to build even resilience, because they step into success. While people who are weak in courage, they fear failure, avoid failure at all costs, and then they never get any actions whatsoever because they avoid failure. And of course, and at the end of the day, they will get final defeat because they will never take action. And a lot of times, the final defeat is regret. The final defeat is regret because I didn't take action when I had chance to. So I hope that you reflect as well, because as I said at the beginning that courage is one of the most important things in life. Because with courage, you're able to develop anything, relationships, business, yourself, career, like everything what you want to develop could be developed easier, faster with courage. So I hope you will reflect where you are with courage and then start developing that you could achieve more things in your life. So I hope you choose to win, and see you tomorrow.